Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this Fireside Chat. I am joined with a number of very strong leaders here in the staffing industry. These are some really great women that I've met over the last few years who have done some pretty powerful things in our space. And my goal in bringing them on here today is to share with you some of the cool things happening to progress our staffing industry as a whole, and also hear what life has been like raising young families during the pandemic and some of the tricks of the trade that they've learned along the way, and how you can grow your career here as well in this space. So today I am joined by Jenny Davis, who is a vice president at Pride Global, as well as Kaltrina Riley, who is head of marketing at Pride Global, Brindy Pickett, who is a vice president at Insight Global, and Emma Garber, also a vice president at Insight Global. Now, these ladies have really 10, 15 plus years of experience specifically in this space, which is really fun to find. So thank you everybody for joining me today.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate you having us.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in? Just for agenda for everybody listening, we're going to be talking through these really awesome people's backgrounds briefly, and then diving into something that they've accomplished in this space that they're proud of, that has given back to the industry as a whole and or their organization, as well as really what has gone on during the pandemic and what they've learned through that process. And then a bonus at the end of a book or podcast or concept that they've learned from that can help other female leaders in this space continue to progress in their careers. So Jenny, why don't you go ahead and take us into a couple minutes of what you do, what your background is.
Great. My background, graduated with a degree in public relations, thought I was going to go down that path, and did so after college for a bit of time, realized it wasn't, and through a job that I had, made a really great network in the IT space in the Twin Cities community. I'm in Minneapolis. And through that, found staffing. So actually got recruited by a recruiting company and said, you know, a lot of these people, you seem to have a personality for it. And like many who found themselves in recruiting or find themselves there now, didn't need to. So it was through people seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, and started down the path. Been doing it for just over about 12 years. With two different firms, the first woman-owned, and now the second is a minority-owned company, Pride Global. So I, in my role at Pride Global and Russell Tobin, am responsible for a fair majority of our contingent labor programs, predominantly enterprise accounts. So my background and where I live most of my time is contract labor for big companies.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. So excited to have you here. Kaltrina, how about you take it away? What's your background? What are you doing now?
Thanks, Kelly. So excited to be here. So I've been working in the staffing and recruiting industry for a little over 12 years. Specifically, my background is in marketing. Like anyone else, I just ended up in the staffing and recruiting space. I went to the University of Connecticut and got a business degree there. And then I ended up getting my MBA in marketing while I was working, actually. So that is sort of when I realized that my passion lied in marketing. And so that's what I decided to pursue, a marketing for staffing and recruiting companies, which was very interesting. And I have been leading the marketing team here at Pride Global for a little over a year. And I'm responsible for all things marketing here, like content, thought leadership, social media, branding, websites, all that good stuff.
And the list goes on, right?
Yes.
Kaltrina and I are kindred spirits when it comes to marketing for this stuff.
We are.
Great. Thank you, Kaltrina. Glad to have you here. Brindy, why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Happy to. It's kind of a mixed bag. Just like these other two ladies said, I've been in staffing 15 years and I've done so many different things, most of which has been recruitment and sales management, but also managed services. And what I'm doing now is so exciting because it's really new for me in the last couple of years, but it's really a focus on our consultant population and designing this experience and becoming an experience provider. And it kind of makes me think about just the last couple of years of this awakening that's happened in employment. And, how do we be better? How do we align people to their purpose? So it's been a really fun take on staffing. So I could use this background that I've had as like the bedrock and work on all our programming. Similar to Kaltrina, it's thought leadership, it's kind of creating measures around somebody's experience. And it's just kind of designing and plotting this course for this whole new way of how we work with this consultant population.
Love it. Love it. It's such a new role and such a new need in the last few years, because like you said, just the awakening of the.
Yeah, there's a lot of white space. And that's what's so thrilling about it, is you can really impact the workforce. And also I think there's such a need because, well, no doubt we'll talk more about this, but just with right now, you just must give grace and you must look for understanding. And there's just so much coming with this awakening of, is my value set aligned with what I'm doing? So it's a major change happening right now.
Love it. Love it. Thanks for joining us, Brindy. We'll dive into more of that in the future questions here. Emma, can you share more about your background as well? Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be 17 years this February. So also been in the industry a good amount of time. And I started in recruiting into sales and sales management. Right now, I manage sales for our technology division over the Mid-Atlantic. And, I think our main job today is learning how to evolve as a leader in this new decade and in a world that's been immensely changed by COVID. And it's been exciting and thrilling and nerve-wracking, but most of all challenging and so fun. And I think that it's grown, certainly, I know each of us, but our industry in ways that we would have never imagined. So I think that's where the space that I'm currently living in today.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining us, Emma. And with all of us spending so much time in this space, we've seen how it has evolved as an industry, right? And I know I've had separate conversations with each of you about how this space always used to be high volume, push, work all the hours. What do you mean you're pregnant? Like, that's not allowed. Just some of these undertones of it being difficult to think about progressing into leadership as a female in the staffing industry. Not necessarily because it was only men at the top, but that may have been a component at certain companies, but also just because there wasn't as much support around having a young family life and what that could mean if you were an achiever and driven like all of us and wanting to progress. Like, do you have to choose one over the other? And so why don't we dive into some of those conversations here in a moment? I want to take a quick second and share a little bit about my background too. I know a lot of people watching the Fireside Chat are familiar that that I do marketing in the staffing space, but very similar to all of you here. I also fell into recruiting. I studied marketing and public relations, and about 11 years ago was introduced out of an ad agency and into someone who owned their own recruiting firm. It was a female-owned firm, and I got to grow marketing from the ground up. And then she moved into a larger firm, and I got to do the same. And so from there, spending time in-house at recruiting and staffing firms, we created Parqa, which does digital marketing for the staffing industry. And so I've also gotten to see a number of organizations grow and evolve over the years. And so I'm excited to dive into this next question, where I want to hear from each of these powerful women what's something that they've accomplished, or a few things they've accomplished that they're proud of, that has changed how the staffing industry operates, whether it was something that you saw as a need or something that someone else brought to you and said, I don't know how to make a solution for this. Is there a way to move it forward? So why don't we mix it up and start with Brindy? Do you want to share a little bit more about something you've accomplished you're proud of in the space?
Yes, and it actually involves my good friend Emma, because both of us were part of founding our Women's Leadership Council. And so no doubt that she might have a shared sense of pride there, because I think we both have many moments to remember that are really special at Insight Global, but to be at the forefront of that was really big. It was big emotionally, it was big to bring a community together and just to help our women evolve, advance, and partner with other people in the organization and also in the industry. And so that has felt just groundbreaking for us. And there's so much to talk about there. I'll leave some more for Emma, because she was actually, I think it was Emma's original concept. So I have to tip my hat to her, because I think she was the original thought leader there. So that is a huge moment of pride. In addition to that, we have something we call the Insight Global Family Foundation, which is funded by employees and for employees. And in 21, we actually brought that to our consultant population, where you can request for a grant. And, should you have been, an Insight Global consultant for up to 6 months of time, or more than 6 months, I should say, you can request a grant, which is a charitable
Mm-hmm.
donation to you. So I've been able to bear witness to the incredible impact of something like that. Over 100 grants made in a year's time. And then just like, you know, when you're on a different trajectory in life, the impact of that goodwill that puts out there and everybody else that you're touching. And so that has been a cascade impact across many different people, not just those that we've given to. And so that's been really powerful.
Love that.
There's been so much stuff. The last thing I'll say, and I could pass the mic, is just we also have this award that's called Titan. And I was really blessed to be a recipient of that. And I think the spirit of that is also what's really powerful, is that it's about our shared values award. So do you personify these shared values? One of my favorites is that we take care of each other. And so I think that has been, you know, an incredible accomplishment. And also something that has so much significance and meaning. And again, not just for us internally, but in the industry, to, you know, everybody you touch with, so many, all of us, like so many people you talk to on the phone, so many people that you engage with, and to always think of it through the lens of, you know, am I serving this person? What's my why? What's my purpose? And am I doing right by them? I think that has caused such a positive impact. So goodness, I can go on, but a lot of really pride-worthy moments in the last couple of years.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Brindy. And just for everybody listening here, Brindy and Emma have both been with Insight Global for 15 and 17 years, if I'm not mistaken, respectively. And so
yeah, I love how you keep underscoring that. And mine's closer to 16, but I try to downplay it. Emma just comes out with it. But yeah, we're old hats. I don't know. What do you say?
no. Well,
Also really, really good friends as well. So we have so many shared experiences at the company.
yeah. Well, and the reason I call it out is to say there's been so many evolutions in our industry, but there's also so many evolutions within any one organization.
Yeah.
And so to see that through and to be able to grow some of those programs and awards and give backs are really exciting, I'd imagine, you know, from the moment you started fresh in the recruiting industry and staffing industry to now. So Emma, could you expand a little bit more on some of the things you're proud of and bounce off of what Brindy shared?
Yeah, I'll definitely expand on the Women's Leadership Council. And I think, you know, I speak for myself and our company a little, but I think the industry as a whole as well, that it was a little bit of a good old boys club. And if you look back, you know, 3 decades ago, and but then seeing the amount of women that came into the industry, and we certainly weren't the first to create a Women's Leadership Council. I think we were, in fact, very late to the game. Having said that, though, it had wings. I mean, it took off, and it was founded in 2018. I will never forget, because we were having our first, you know, the commencement of getting together, and the meeting of all of us coming together in Washington, D.C., where I live, and I went into labor. So I had everyone coming in. So my dear friend Brindy completely took over and ran it flawlessly. And we had people flying in from all over the country. And it was just, I think what that alone represented, and me being able to go out at that time and feel completely supported. At the time, we rehauled our entire maternity leave program, which was a really big win. But I think what meant the most to me is, as I started to participate in different women's groups and forums, especially within our portfolio, there were major household names that had caught wind of some of the things that we were doing and said, this is awesome, teach us, show us. And I don't think we didn't give ourselves enough recognition of some of the things that we had accomplished and achieved. So to see this group of women come together and to help empower other women across the industry was by far and away one of the coolest outcomes of forming this group. So and together we've learned so much in doing it, and it's created such an amazing group of you know, a support system that we didn't have before. So
oh, that's amazing. And if you could just put yourself in the shoes of the new recruiters you have today that might be 2 or 3 years into their career, right? Really, really fresh, trying to figure out the world and get to step into a company and into an industry that's so different and supportive of them than it was before. Like, that to me is very exciting. You know, none of us know what we don't know, but they get to have that going forward. Kaltrina, will you share some of the cool things that you're proud of for, you know, just the last number of years?
Sure, I'd love to. So I've been very fortunate to have had the opportunity to positively contribute to my organization and the industry in many ways, but one that really stands out to me and I'm really proud of is the launch of our Decidedly Diverse initiative. We really include diversity in really everything that we do. It's ingrained in every aspect of our enterprise, all the services that we offer. We help address obstacles that disproportionately affect people and companies of diverse backgrounds. And so it's just been awesome to be part of that and thinking through diversity, equity, and inclusion and how that is really in everything that we do as an organization. And I'm just so proud to stand behind that. And help bring it to the marketplace and most importantly to our customers. And just for me personally and my background, I come from immigrant parents. So just to be able to launch something like that and, like I said, stand behind it and all of the things that I've been through sort of to get to where I am in my career. It's an awesome feeling. And then from a company standpoint, just having the opportunity to build a marketing team that contributes to business goals and objectives. We have a seat at the table. We interact with our stakeholders regularly to ensure that all of the things that we're doing, we are aligning ourselves to our stakeholders' business goals and initiatives. And that really has just been so impactful because it's meaningful work that we're doing. And then, my favorite part is just the ability to recruit and hire a team and just launch all these really cool things that we've been able to do in such a short amount of time. So I'm loving it. And I'm a problem solver at heart. So now I'm just enjoying the process of seeing the fruits of our labor. And that's really rewarding.
That's great. That's so fun. Thank you for sharing that. And I know firsthand what it feels like to get marketing a seat at the table. And it's really important. If you go from not having that representation and marketing being more of a doer role, as opposed to helping to solve those business problems, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think what is even more important is when you have buy-in from the CEO and from leadership, because that's what really helps to move the needle. And that.
Right. Well, and I would say that's the case across everybody's answers, which is so cool of having that senior leadership buy-in, and tenure helps a lot with that, right? Like being a part of it from the foundation helps a lot. And so I hope that this conversation, as people in our industry get to see it, gives ideas and inspiration for how to get that seat at the table and make positive changes and impact in your organization and broader in the market. Jenny, can you share? And I do have a special request. If you could also share about your cool culture program that you guys have at Pride Global. It's just a really fun concept.
Okay, trying to make that defined in a short period of time is somewhat challenging, but I'm going to do my best. So at Pride, unlike what you see in a lot of industry competitors, we care as much about your cultural fit as we do your performance. And so we have what we call our dojo program. So much like a dojo in karate, it's thought of in the same way. When you come into a new classroom in karate or any sort of martial arts, you come in as a white belt. You're not expected to know moves. You're not expected to know the basics. You're just expected to be open-minded, learn and listen. We have a similar feeling here. You come in regardless if you are a new administrative assistant in our headquarters office or you are a senior level market lead. Everyone comes in on the same cultural playing field. And through time, you have the same opportunity to elevate and you advance. Just like you would receive a promotion based on performance of your day job, you receive cultural elevation as well. And so that is something I think is a core foundation of who we are. It's wildly successful in that it comes with benefits, right? But it also doesn't. And it's just about the fact that it's doing good and being good. And so there's core values that attribute to your growth along that. And we look at it every quarter. So it's something I'm very proud of. One of the things here is I get to coin being the first person to come into the firm as a white belt and advance to a purple, which is the highest level of elevation within the firm.
Woo, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool to say because not only did I do it, I was the woman who did it, and I entered a room that's predominantly male as well. So that's something I am proud of here. I'm proud of the dojo program. I remember when I interviewed, I was like, what? But then when I got into it, I was like, okay, karate, like, do I have to do moves or do I just have to be a good person? But it's just about caring about people and extending your circle of influence. That's what we say all the time, is like, think about people, like Brindy said, outside of the scope of, is this going to benefit me? Maybe not, but just be a good person. And that will benefit you, is what we try to preach in that regard. So it's an oversimplification, but it really is the core of it. And I think, honestly, one of the things I did through that and how it happened for me was, the thing that I'm proud of was just being an advocate. I had the benefit of coming into this industry working for a woman who, when she hired me, she was pregnant. And when I left, she was pregnant. She had 4 children during the time that I worked for her.
Wow.
I worked for a company that was almost all women. And so what I knew of the industry was female. It was just, they were powerhouses. It's what I walked into. It's how I learned. And so I've carried that, I guess, through my career in the space. I just didn't know different. And so when I came here, I sort of brought that same energy. And, you know, in a room that wasn't predominantly female, in a company that wasn't predominantly, guess what? We are now. So statistically, we have more women working here than we do men. And we're continuing to push the channel of more women in leadership, and it's working. So like Brindy and Emma, we founded a women's leadership council called Lioness. And have focused also on the benefit of maternity leave improvement and other things for women that work in our firm, not just parents, but all women at all stages of life. And I think, like Emma and Brindy said, for Pride Global, it's been about the camaraderie it builds. Knowing you have a resource, it's awkward to think like, oh, someone's looking up to you. But if we say we've been doing this for 17, 15, 12 years, someone probably is. And I guess sitting in the seat and accepting that for a minute and saying, okay, I'm going to wear that. And yeah, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, and I'm doing well, and I'm leading things and proud of it. So I'm proud of that.
Thank you, Jenny. That's so great. And I know I've had conversations with each of you about this prior, of just giving ourselves grace to try to figure out the juggle. And not to say that men also don't have the juggle, right? Like, this is not a pro women against men conversation at all. It's just more the industry is having more women in leadership than it has before historically. And leadership roles do demand a different level of stamina sometimes, depending on what you're doing in your organization and how you're helping it grow. And so this is actually a perfect transition to our next question around something that you have learned during the pandemic season. And I know we're so over talking about it, and it's something that, even though that is the case, and most of us have gone back to, we'll call it business as usual, as opposed to workers that maybe don't have the opportunity to work remote in different landscapes of the workforce. But there are still a lot of really key learnings, because everybody here has a young family. And so I want to take a few minutes to share, if you're comfortable, you know, what ages are your kids? You know, what was that snapshot when COVID hit? And what's something that you've learned that you can pass along, you know, to men, women, the like, especially people that have young families, and how you're navigating and what this could look like going into the future. So let's see, Kaltrina, do you want to start first?
Sure. So I have 3 kids, all boys, 4, 2, and 10 months. It is very loud in my house. And I've learned a lot more than we have time to share today. But one thing that I've truly learned is the importance of childcare and the ramifications when you don't have access to it, especially for working parents. I don't want to say moms, but working parents. I'm fortunate to have a nanny, and outside of having, you know, my nanny, I have family that I can lean on in times that I really need the extra help. So I think just understanding the importance of childcare, especially in these times, is crucial. And then, just prioritizing what is important and what can you let go of, I think is really important right now, especially for women, and making yourself a priority and not feeling guilty about it. I think that is one thing that I have truly learned, is taking time for myself, because when I do that, I'm a better mom.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And something that I also find really important in, Kaltrina, in your answer, and I know the answers everyone else will provide, is demystifying these leadership roles. Like I'm hoping that people will watch this that want to be in a VP or beyond position someday in the staffing industry and go, okay, Kaltrina's human, Kelli's human, everybody here is human. Because I know growing up in this space, I saw some really strong female and male leaders and just assumed that they have all their stuff together. They're so buttoned up. They never make a mistake. There are no flaws. Therefore, I have to apply that to myself. And it creates an unhealthy internal environment. And so opening your eyes and getting to see, all right, people that are accomplishing amazing things and are progressing significantly in their careers and doing very well and having an impact are also human and just trying to figure it out as we go, right? So
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing, Kaltrina. Brindy, will you share next?
Yeah, that reminds me to say I am so fallible. I mean, I had a failure to launch many mornings last week where we just could not. I guess my family dynamic is I have this amazing husband, but I have a 3-year-old son and he is a maniac. And I'm expecting, so I'm 6 months pregnant right now. And I chose to do my family planning far later in my career and in life. And that has afforded some luxury, which has been amazing. But I've realized like I really glorify the grinds. Like I used to just really prioritize in my mind the sense of accomplishment about I'm busy, and I have just totally changed that. It's, actually productive people focus, busy people multitask. And so I've also embraced that fallibility piece of like, that's okay. I'm kind of, life happens, and to share some of that vulnerability, especially with other women, because you bring that up, Kelli, and it's so profound. If actually even Jenny, you said this so well of like, yeah, we should, others are coming up, they're rising. And I think for us to help other people rise, we should be really genuinely vulnerable about, hey, I don't have it all together. This thin veneer of perfection isn't genuine. And that's actually humanizing. And we have way more in common than we have that separates us. So I've really learned to share those vulnerabilities. I really try to stop glorifying that grind. So like, it isn't about just being busy. And I've also learned, especially as women, you have so many plates spinning. You might have the plate of, I want to keep up the home, or I'm the social connector, or, maybe I'm a primary, but also in other parenting relationships, you might not be the primary. So you have all these plates spinning, and I've recognized it's okay to let a plate drop, and you're going to disappoint somebody. You just have to disappoint the right people. So that's okay to do. I just have become really choosy, and this is going to be a disappointment, but that disappointment's not going to be my husband. It's not going to be my son. It's not going to be my family. So I've really realigned that way. And I'm lucky that I get a lot of support to do that. But to Kaltrina's point, like I have learned so many lessons about wellness, my own mental care, and really taking that, instead of grinding all the time, taking the time to just sit and be present and rest, because I never would have done that. And that's been a really cool gift of these last couple of years of like, that actually is paying into me being a better version of myself and being able to give to others and uplift others if I can spend that time to just decompress. So I have improved vastly in those areas in the last couple of years.
That's great. And we all think about getting a course or getting your MBA, or like a certificate or an MBA, or having a mentorship relationship as things that propel us career-wise. But if you think about having a counselor or going and getting a massager, the things that physically, mentally, emotionally reset and progress you, I've come to terms that those are also really important. And you don't have to be almost embarrassed that you are setting aside time for things like that. It's an investment in your personal development, just like you're so proud to talk about the investments you have in professional development, right?
Yeah, like self-improvement might be finding that harmony. And that's actually something that's valuable, where before it was just so deprioritized. So I feel like what a blessing that that's now top of my awareness is, hey, check in with yourself, do a heart scan. Are you your best version? And if you're not, you can't give as much to others. So then how do you kind of reset?
Right. No, so true. Well, thanks for sharing that. Emma, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I have a 2-year-old as of 2 days ago. Yesterday, my husband turned 40, and so they're 2 days apart. And I have a 3.5-year-old. So similar Kaltrina and, all of you guys, it's, wildness, the boys, loud, crazy. And I think one of, you're always taught to utilize your strengths. And I think one of the beautiful things about all of us is that foundationally, we learned how to interview people. And coming into the industry, I thought that it was just either something you had or didn't have. This kind of probably plays into having a growth mindset, but I very quickly learned that no, it's just a learned skill and it can be taught and you have to teach it. And so learning how to do that really well what I found has paid off so well in my personal life in all facets, but especially in finding childcare. And I really do feel this way. I feel I try to help my friends in any way I can, through referrals or, hey, ask these questions, do this, because some of them have really struggled. And I think that I've been really fortunate to be able to have, Kaltrina said this, it's so important. You have to prioritize it. You have to make sure that if you don't have a good childcare situation, it's really hard to be good in your professional life. And that's not to say that things don't go wrong and, your childcare, whether it's school or nanny or get sick and then what's your backup. But I think there's also a certain element of scrappiness that comes in recruiting. It's just probably ingrained in us and taught in us. Some of that is glorifying the grind, the not good part. But as we evolve and as we grow, learning just how to utilize our strengths to best tackle what we're going after. And I think for me, I've really been able to set myself up for success because we don't have family close by and it's just my husband and I, and lean on other ways in the community and building, the community that's around you. And I think pre-COVID, I think this happened around the world. We didn't do the best job connecting with our neighbors. As a result of COVID, we all came together and it was just a really good reminder because we couldn't be more different in everything, our personalities, our backgrounds, who we are, but we have this most amazing group and we lean on each other for everything. And I think I also just try to be a sponge. I mean, I will say, what tips do you have from someone else that is helping keep my children? I will watch. I will think, what are they doing? My children are listening. They're doing a really good job. How are they doing that? And our new neighbors, they moved in a couple of months ago and they have 2 little ones and she has a boy the same age. And she just stopped him in his tracks. And she said, I need you to put on your listening ears right now. Do you have your listening ears on now? And I hadn't used that tactic and it stuck with me. And sure enough, I took that and it's working. So I feel like any little tip, we're all doing this. There's no perfect book on it. There's no perfect way to do it. So for me, I like to also share my failures and my wins. So I can say, hey, by the way, this happened to me. Don't do this. Or, what are your tricks? So I think just using your community and your support system is so big.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Emma. And it's so true. People who come up in the staffing and recruiting space, you are good at selecting individuals that are going to be a part of whether it's your candidates or your clients or your core community. And that absolutely transitions into your family.
Yeah. And the last thing I think I'll say is we were just talking about, through this time, being parents, raising kids, doing well in your career, you have to be able to, it's always a balance and making sure our mental health is in check. And I have a friend who has struggled with addiction their whole life. And they said something to me that resonated so well. And he essentially said, hey, I have to do the things that will keep me good and will keep me on the straight and narrow. And those things are X. I know what those things are. I have to go to my meetings. I have to do my bike ride and this. And that, unfortunately, it's a sacrifice because it does take away in some of the other facets of my life, maybe sometimes with the time with the kids, but that makes me good. And so I think my husband and I have really worked on that. For me, I'm not a big gym person, but I like to organize things. So he has his gym time and I have my, I'm going to go organize a closet or a drawer. And then I'm going to feel much better after that. So I think respecting those during this time and while you can be, things can be chaos with small children is really helpful. You got to do the things that make you good. And it's up to each of us to know what those things are.
I love that. And you're right. It isn't always gym time for everybody. I sometimes feel bad that that's not my go-to, but I feel awesome when I do. But you're right. Everybody's got kind of their own outlets of what resets them mentally. Jenny, will you share, just something that you've learned throughout the last few years and ages of your kids and all those fun things?
You bet. So I have a 14-year-old stepson who I've known since he was 2, a 4-year-old, and then a 6-month-old, all boys as well. And then a lovely, supportive, but alpha male husband. who has, if I didn't state the fact that he's been integral in my ability to grow in my career, it would be a misstep. I was fortunate to find someone who was very comfortable elevating me at times when I needed it. So that has been a large part of my career, and the learning lessons I've had as well in the last couple of years is how much I need that from him and other people. So the sense of community that Emma referenced. I guess something I've learned, it's a self-reflection moment. Much like Brindy said about the grind, it's self-induced for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it in a lot of people. It's a choice. And I am fortunate to work at Pride Global for two men who truly walk the walk when it's about valuing family over work. And I hear my husband in my head often. And what he'll say is, I have a baby on my hip and my phone in my hand. And the baby's crying and I'm frantic on the inside trying to respond to something. And he will say to me, what do you think? Now, Tim and Leo are the Russell and Tobin of Russell Tobin. What do you think they'd say in this moment? And I go, they'd say to put the phone down. And to have that foundational learning for myself during this time was enforced, because guess what? I couldn't hide the babies. I couldn't pretend like it was all okay. So in the veneer moment, there was no acting. There was no veil to hide behind because it was ripped away. I'm in my house. The screaming child is real. I'm not going to pretend he's not there. I have a nanny. I have help. All of those things are open now. It's all fair game. And so I guess what I learned was work-life integration. And it's not, to Brindy's point, I got to pick some days. Today it's kiddos. So if I don't work for a company, and I actually posted this as I was going on a maternity leave with my most recent son, that got a lot of traction on LinkedIn, was just, if you don't work for a place that you feel like your kids can be a part of it, you're probably in the wrong place. And I feel so privileged to have that. It sounds like we all do, and not all people do. And it makes me angry for women, because we shouldn't have to pick one or the other. And I think that saying that out loud and really advocating for that and not accepting the moments that you self-inflict or that are inflicted by others when they make you feel guilty for that. So I know we all saw the clip of the guy on CNN where his kid comes rushing in the room, right? We stopped apologizing for that. And I think every meeting I'm in now, when someone's like, oh, you might hear my kid, or here comes my son, I'm like, don't apologize. Why are we apologizing? We're all in the same boat. Like, this all unified us. So stop apologizing for trying to juggle. And it's work-life integration, not work-life balance for me.
And it provides so much intimacy. That's also something that was a big awareness moment that I had in the last couple of years, was like, wow, you are seeing me in my home. You're seeing my family.
Right.
That and that really bonds you. I mean, I think that has brought me so much closer to people, because it's like, yeah, you're seeing that cattail in my face and I'm moving it. Like, we're together. Like, I love that part of it.
Yeah,
Where,
so true.
I'm actually my whole self. I'm actually known. And, for any of you who are listening or in the group that feel like, gosh, I had to fake it until I make it, that used to be an adage that was actually said on our team. And thank goodness that's gone to die now, because don't fake it. That's disingenuous, and you actually will never reach your full potential if you do that. Other people realize inauthenticity. And so how great that we can be, Jenny, you said it so well, like we can be, just don't apologize for that. Be your authentic self, bring your whole self. I love the thought of integrating, because there isn't a black and white balance anymore. Sometimes when you say the term work-life balance, you mean this compartmentalization, but really I love using the word harmony. It's like, how do you strike that harmony? And it does ebb and flow. Sometimes parts win out over others, and that's okay, because it's not linear. So that's been a gift, is just realizing nothing is really black and white and linear.
Yeah, it's so true. And I've got an almost 2-year-old who was born March 18th, 2020. And so he arrived days like right as the pandemic hit. I was in the hospital, and something that I've learned is to expand my network virtually. I mean, this call, this recording is a testament of that. I used to do so many happy hours in the Minneapolis space, and that completely went away during COVID. And it's actually opened so many cool relationships that I probably wouldn't have had before. And so I'm very grateful for that too. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. You're going to have to stay tuned maybe for a future conversation for those bonus insights on concepts, but I'm sure there's been so many great insights gained here today. So Jenny, Kaltrina, Brindy, Emma, thank you so much for joining me here on this fireside chat. You can find all of these powerful individuals on LinkedIn, follow their career path, learn from them. I know I am. So ask any questions if you've got it down in the comments below. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and let's continue the movement of creating better spaces and better cultures, culture in the staffing industry for women and beyond. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.